All right. So we over the past 2 days read a couple of poems, and then you guys did the text questions yesterday. Today we are going to read a new, I think it's an article, and then tomorrow you guys will do the text questions on them. So we'll do a little bit of activities to make sure we understand the article today, and then tomorrow you guys will do the work. So over on Google Classroom, it should be posted now. It's called Teen Researchers Defend Media Multitasking. Say that 5 times fast. So go ahead and get that opened up, please.
Teen researchers defend media multitasking. Teen researchers.
Charlie, it was a joke. Please don't actually try it. All right, looks like a lot of you guys are getting it pulled up. So go ahead and get that pulled up, please.
I'm going to talk about doing homework with music text. I just read that part. But I bet you're going to have to do like with watching, doing your homework at one time and you're watching shows.
Probably.
I don't do any of this.
Okay. I think that's the point. Okay, so go ahead and get it opened up, please. More. Looks like a lot of you guys are already there. Good. Yes. Yes, you do. All right. So this one, teen researchers defend media multitasking. So we know what a teenager is, right? Someone that's between 13 to like 19, I would say. Yes, you guys will be teenagers soon. And then researchers, we know what a researcher is. They are people that research something. So these are teenagers that are researching something. And they're going to try to defend media multitasking. What do you think media multitasking is?
Looking at two different things on the screen.
Okay, so doing 2 things on a screen at the same time. What else could it be?
I know what.
Watching 2 shows at the same time. What else?
Watching YouTube, doing research, maybe.
Okay, so watching something while doing work. Okay, what about listening to something while doing work? Do you think that's multitasking?
No, I can type in while I
Just because you can doesn't mean that that's not what it is. Is reading or doing work and listening at the same time multitasking?
Yes.
Yes, because you are doing multiple tasks. That's what multitasking means. You're doing more than one thing at once. So yes, you can do it. That means that you can multitask, Charlie.
Not about many things, because I can't like read something at the same time I listen to you.
That's, yeah. I mean, I'm not good at multitasking when it comes to doing my work. Like, I can sit on the couch and scroll through my phone and watch TV at the same time. That's fine. But if it's something that I need to do that's important in terms of like grading your guys' stuff or reading a book, like if I'm reading a book, I can't listen to music. Okay, I can listen to music at the same time as I grade your stuff. But with reading, I can't watch TV or listen to something while I read, because then I start to confuse the words that I'm reading with what I'm hearing. It doesn't go well, right? So these teenagers are going to defend that multitasking. I'm going to assume that they're going to say it's a good thing, right? So
does defend mean they're like hoping it be a stronger article, or
yes, they're defending that they should be able to do it, that it's good for you. Because there's a lot of adults and like researchers that say that doing 2 things at once isn't good if you're trying to learn something. It splits your attention and you're not learning it to your fullest. But these teenagers are saying, no, we can do it. At least I assume. We haven't read the article yet. So let's go ahead and look at the background and the author really quick. So I'm going to play it in 3, 2, 1.
Teen researchers defend media multitasking by Samathi Reddy. News article. Background. The word multitask is a term for a computer running more than one program at a time. Multitasking can also describe people who do more than one task at a time. According to research on the subject, the main challenge of multitasking is not physical, but mental. About the author. Sumathi Reddy is a reporter for the Wall Street Journal and writes a weekly column on consumer health called Your Health. She previously wrote for the journal's Greater New York section as a Metro columnist. Reddy lives in New York City.
Okay. So we have Sumathi Reddy, who wrote this article. Is she a teenager?
Mm-hmm.
Not a teenager.
Jones,
Yeah?
is Gina here?
Yes.
Can you send her to the office, please?
Yeah.
Well, that's new.
All right. So I don't think that this lady is a teenager because she works for a newspaper, writes articles. So I don't think she's a teenager. But she's probably going to talk to teenagers about this stuff. And then they talk about multitasking in the background information a little bit, that it's when people do more than one task at a time. But they did clarify that the main problem and the main challenge that comes with multitasking is not the physical ability to do two things at once, but the mental ability, your brain power to be able to split your attention between the two different things. Because if you're reading while listening to music, your attention is split between the book that you're reading and the music that you're hearing. So you're not focusing all of your attention on one thing, but two things. So they say it's harder to do it because of your brain power, not your physical ability to do it. Yeah.
So, I think I've done this before, like, where I'm, like, doing something and, like, I'm listening to music or something. And, like, I'm, like nodding to the beat, but, like, I don't, like, pay attention to the music, so I don't really, like, I forget it's there, but I'm doing the work.
Yeah, whenever I read and want something, like to hear something, listen to music, I put on music without words so that it doesn't distract me, but I have something to like listen to. And then if I'm like typing or doing work or something like that, and I am listening to music, every once in a while, like your attention just kind of strays, right? It doesn't stay focused, and I'll start typing what I'm hearing instead. It happens. But that's why people say that multitasking isn't good, because you get less focused, right? So let's go ahead and read through this article. So doing homework with music, text, tweets works better for some. Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Teen researchers defend media multitasking by Sumathi Reddy. Doing homework with music, texts, tweets works better for some. Some teens doing homework while listening to music and juggling tweets and texts may actually work better that way, according to an intriguing new study performed by 2 high school seniors. The Portland, Oregon students were invited to the annual conference of the American Academy of Pediatrics in San Diego this past weekend to present a summary of their research, which analyzed more than 400 adolescents. The findings? Though most teens perform better when focusing on a single task, those who are high media multitaskers, about 15% of the study participants, performed better when working with the distractions of email and music than when focusing on a single activity. The results are a surprise. Previous research generally has found that people who think they are competent multitaskers actually perform worse than others who try to focus on one thing at a time. But the latest study looked only at teens, and it's one of the few multitasking research projects focused on this age group. The student researchers suggest this may explain the different outcomes. We really wanted to see how media multitasking is affecting young people, said Sarayu Caulfield, 17 years old, as she stood beside the poster presentation of the study at the AAP conference. What our research is suggesting is that maybe our brains as adolescents and digital natives have adapted to this media influence, and because we've grown up with it, we're able to cope with all these different stimuli, said 18-year-old Alexandra Ulmer.
That's a really good point. So you guys have grown up with the ability to like with cell phones, computers, TV, all of the digital things. You guys grew up with that. You haven't known a life without them, right? Like you may not personally have your own phone or your own laptop, but you know that they're there. You know how to use them, all of that stuff, right? Whereas even me, like we didn't grow up with cell phones as like a thing really. They didn't become big until 2000. No, maybe like 2007, 2005, right? So I was 10 in 2005. So I think I got my first cell phone when I was 12, and it was not a good one. Like, it's one of the flip phones that barely works and you can call people, right? It didn't take pictures. It didn't have a touch screen. Couldn't take videos. All you could really do is call someone. Texting was a lot different. It didn't have a little tiny keyboard. It had numbers that you had to click multiple times, right? So they're suggesting with this research that because you guys are born into a world that has so much technology, your brain and your ability to adapt to this technology is already there because it's always been there in your life. You've never had to learn how to use them. So as teenagers, you're better at multitasking with media because you're just used to them always being around. Does that make sense? So let's keep going a little bit. We are on paragraph 6.
Miss Caulfield and Miss Ulmer, who say they aren't heavy multitaskers themselves, conducted the study as part of the Oregon Episcopal School's Science Research Program. The project, which took 2 years to complete, placed second in the behavioral science category at the Intel International Science and Engineering Fair in May in Los Angeles, the world's largest pre-college science competition. The teens over the summer presented their research at the National Institute on Drug Abuse in Washington, D.C., part of the National Institutes of Health. Nora Valkow, director of NIDA, said she was impressed with the teenagers' research. This study explored whether experience with multitasking affected behaviors controlled by the prefrontal cortex, an area involved in self-control, she said. As more studies of the kind that Alexandra and Sarayu carried out so successfully become published, and as more young people become exposed to these new cognitive modalities, we may find that multitasking is not necessarily always bad, she said. In the study, participants were classified as high, medium, or low media multitaskers, using a standardized test developed by researchers at Stanford University. Those rated at the high level reported spending an average of 3 hours a day multitasking, including at least 50% of the time they were doing homework. Students at the low level spent 20 minutes a day multitasking on average, and barely at all while doing homework. Of the 403 total participants, 60 were classified in the high group, 50 in the low group, and the rest were moderate media multitaskers. The students, whose average age was 14 and a half, were randomly sent into one of 2 rooms where they did a variety of cognitive tests on a computer to make use of their working or short-term memory. In one room, called the multitasking room, students were required to do the tests while listening to music. They were told they could do whatever they wanted on their phone or computer and to expect 1 or more emails, which they should respond to as quickly as possible. Not everyone actually received an email. The students in the non-multitasking room did the same computer tests, but without any distractions. What we found is on average, most people perform better when focusing on one single task, said Miss Ulmer. But this one group of people, the high media multitaskers, perform best when they are in a multitasking environment.
So with that stuff, that's how they did the study, right? They took these teenagers and they sent them to 2 rooms. The first room, or they sent them to one room that was just go take this computer test, no distractions, no phones, no email. You just take the test. There's no music, nothing. You take the test. So you're focused on the one single task, right? And then they sent them into a second room where they had access to their phone. There was music playing. They could text. They could read emails, as long as they did the test. So most people did better in the room with no distractions. They were able to just focus. They did better in there. But there was a small group of people in the study that did really well in the multitasking room that could do both and were better at it than just focusing in the silent room. Is that, you see how that works? The differences there? Kinda. Let's see. Paragraph 13.
Media multitaskers actually excelled in the multitasking room. Another finding: participants in the multitasking room who didn't receive an email after being told to expect one performed worse. It was the anticipation of receiving an email that was more detrimental to their performance than actually receiving the email, said Ms. Ulmer. The tests used in the study involved simple tasks such as identifying whether a particular colored rectangle had moved when scenes on a computer screen were changed. It isn't clear if the findings would pertain to more demanding situations, such as multitasking while doing calculus homework. Ms. Ulmer and Ms. Caulfield said they have begun seeking a scientific journal interested in publishing their study. They said they would like to continue doing scientific research when they enter college. The teens received guidance on their research from Clifford Nass, a communications professor at Stanford and a leading researcher on multitasking, who died while the project was underway. The teens were then aided by Donald Roberts, a professor emeritus in communications at Stanford and an authority on media and youth. Dr. Nass and colleagues had conducted an earlier study with 100 college-age students. It found heavy media multitaskers were less effective than people doing one task at a time in such functions as controlling memory, switching between activities, and paying attention. The study was published in 2009 in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. Heavy media multitaskers' ability to focus on relevant information and not be captured by the irrelevant was worse, said Anthony Wagner, a psychology and neuroscience professor at Stanford and a co-author of the 2009 study. Dr. Wagner said the study and subsequent work by other researchers haven't been able to answer the question whether the act of heavy media multitasking affects attention and impairs a person's ability to filter out distractions, or whether the people themselves are naturally that way. Other research has considered whether media multitasking can change the brain structure. In a study published in September in the online journal PLOS ONE, researchers from the University of Sussex in England found people who juggle multiple media devices have a lower density of gray matter in the anterior cingulate cortex, a region of the brain involved in cognitive and emotional processing, compared with people who use one media device at a time. The study, which took brain scans of 75 adults, didn't prove multitasking was responsible for the differences in brain structure, the study said. Some research has indicated there may be a genetic component to people who multitask well. A 2010 study, conducted at the University of Utah, found there may be a category of people the researchers labeled supertaskers, who perform extremely well at multitasking. The study tested 200 participants in a driving simulator and tested them again while also subjecting them to a demanding audio test that included math problems and other challenges. Most participants showed a significant decline in driving performance when the audio test was added. But for 2.5% of the people, the supertaskers, there was no change.
All right. There's a lot of information about multitasking, right? So before this study that these two teenagers did, most of the information about multitasking is that multitasking with media you don't do as well as if you just focused on one thing. That's what the majority of research says. But then these two teenagers come along and say, no, there's a group of teenagers that can do this. They can do it fine and do it better than if they were just forced to focus on one thing. So now there's a new area of research that I'm sure that people will go based off of this, where they need to study if there are certain people or if there's people that have different not brain structures, everybody has the same brain structure, but like people's brains work in mysterious ways. So maybe there's some people that their brain works differently and they're able to do all this multitasking much easier and it works better for them. So there's probably going to be a lot of studies on that in the future, which would be pretty cool to read about. This article was in I don't know. Let's see. I don't know. It doesn't say exactly when, but let's see. Did they talk about a year that these kids did the research?
No.
Nope. I'll look it up while you guys do something. Huh.
I like to study while I do things, so like my hands will be down here while I like studying with something while I like read something. And then I'll just like use the mouse to like click the answer. Cause like when I fidget with something with my hands, like I can focus better.
sometimes, well, there's a lot of research about that as well, that fidgeting with something in your hands can help you focus on what you're doing. So that's not like the media multitasking with like the music and the phone and stuff, but having something in your hands can help you focus better. That's why there's fidget spinners and fidget cubes and different device or like toy things that are like they're called fidget toys, right? That do weird things, but they keep your hands busy so that your mind can focus. There's research on that too. It's pretty cool. So let's go over to the making meaning box. We're probably only going to do 2 of these again. Let's open the first read first. All right, the title here is Teen Researchers Defend Media Multitasking. Long one. Okay. So for this one, in the notice box, we have done this many, many times. What is it about and who is involved? So basically, who did the study? So find the names of the 2 teenagers. And what was it about? What did they find? Okay. You don't need to do complete sentences here. You just need to answer the couple questions. And then for the second box, the annotate, go back to the passage and highlight 2 important things from the article. Okay, so go ahead and be working on that. I'm going to find the answer to Dallin's question. Yeah. So these are the 2 kids.
Oh, look at it.
No, we're in the middle of something. And I'm recording it, so it'll flag it on YouTube.
Different kind
So this is the exact article that we just read, actually. So yes, this article was written in 2014. Which means it's about 7 years old. So they've probably done more research on this since this article was written. So go ahead and be working on that section, please. So notice and annotate for right now. Okay, so what is it about and who it is, or who is involved? Wow, I can't talk. So who are the researchers and what were they researching, and then annotating or highlighting 2 things that were important in the article.
I gotta shut my laptop down.
Okay.
On the video that was
Okay. We'll take about one more minute and then we will scroll down and do the bottom part of that. Okay, let's go ahead and scroll down to the next part. So you should have two things highlighted at this point, hopefully, and talked about who did the research and what it was about. Down below, I want you guys to connect this article to yourselves, and I have a feeling you should be able to. So connect it to yourself if possible. Do you multitask as an almost teenager? I bet you do. So there's one connection right there.
I don't multitask that well.
Just because you don't do it well doesn't mean you don't try.
Still do it.
Yeah. You guys do it almost every day in here when you ask me to put on music while you work. That's media multitasking. So all of you guys should have at least one connection to this because all of you do it. Everybody does it. I can't think of one person in my life that does not multitask with media. So everybody should have at least one connection, and then try to connect it to something that's not about you. A movie, another reading we've done, a book you've read, anything like that. So connect it to two things. So two connections. And then I want you guys to write a 3 to 4 sentence summary of the article on the next part. For you guys about 5 minutes on this one.
Is it like a TV? Is it like dad the multitasking or any multitasking? And with dad like music, like listening to music, yeah. Anything like that. Listening to music and working, yeah. Or watching TV, or listening to music. Or playing your video games, Netflix.
It's about 2 more minutes. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and look at the other part that we're going to do. If you didn't finish this, just finish it real quick. You'll have time after too if you need to go back to it. So that was the first read chart. We're going to do the close read now. So let's open up that chart this time. Okay, and we are going to add the title, which is Teen Researchers Defend Media Multitasking. We usually do this part, the questions and the conclusions together, but I want you guys to try this part on your own this time. So I want you to do 2 questions about the article, 2 things that you can question that we didn't really find out about the article. And then I want you to do 2 conclusions. What can we say came from the article? And they have results to their study, so maybe do the results of their study. That's 2 conclusions that came from the article. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys 3 or 4 minutes on this one. Come up with 2 questions from the article and 2 conclusions from the article. About 1 more minute. All right. Looks like a lot of you guys are finishing that part up. So that was close read the text. So 2 questions and 2 conclusions that you came up with from the story. On the second box, analyze the text. We're skipping that, so you can write skip on that part. And then down below, there's one last box we're going to fill out. It's the quick write. It says, pick a paragraph from the text that grabbed your interest and explain the power of the passage. So basically, choose one paragraph you thought was interesting and explain why in 3 to 5 sentences. So choose one paragraph or something from the article that you found interesting. It can be more than one paragraph if you need to, but just something from the article that you thought was interesting, and then explain to me why. Why did you think that was interesting? And once you're done with that, we are done for ELA today, because you guys will do some text questions that go with it tomorrow. You can turn it in if you want to, because you will be able to see it tomorrow, right? So finish that up and you can get it turned in. Those of you that are online, once you finish it up, you can head out